podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
Let's talk about the NXT-fication of WWE.
Woo! Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
This is episode 882 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. Thanks for listening into the program. We're in the middle of some real wrestling pay-per-views that are all over the place. We had Wrestle Dream for AEW last week. We had Bad Blood from the WWE 2 weeks before that. And coming up this weekend, it is the 20th anniversary, correct? Or the 19th, I forget, of Bound for Glory. The 2024 edition coming up in Detroit. And we got all that to go ahead and talk about tonight on the program. A lot. So, leading up to Crown Jewel, we know that WWE is right now working on building the cross-promotional, brand matches that are coming up with the Crown Jewel Championships of the line, which mean nothing, but we got Gunther and Cody Rhodes, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and they're building up things, or Liv Morgan and Nia Jax, but still a couple different pieces added to the mix just to kind of give it a little bit of something to do until we get to the Crown Jewel and what they're going to do with it. And if that will satisfy the Saudi Crown Princes, it's the belts, the Crown Jewel belts. That's what they think will work. So I was watching NXT this week and we see the numbers. Look, I don't want to be one of those people here that do a wrestling podcast that constantly have to go and start looking for look, the numbers went down back to 600,000. I told you. No, let Dave Meltzer do that. Dave Meltzer already went with the I told you so this week already. I saw that online on X. Fine. You notice I don't go ahead and get into that kind of banter on X. I just put up my shows. Very rarely do I put a comment out there that's going to say anything. And we know that to stir up and to gin up some real resentment or trigger people online, you see those that are out there, my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, that can't help themselves but decide to go ahead and put out clickbait and make comments, and by the way, project themselves all the narcissistic, mental kind of traits, the Jedi mind trick they think they're going to be doing like a Vince McMahon, which is not working. You can only go ahead and really dumb your audience as much as you want, because that's what you're really doing. For some of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren out there, you are playing to the lowest common denominator, throwing at them the lowest hanging fruit. It's like politics, honestly. It's the same kind of shit. Same thing with media as well. I don't know. We're kind of in the media business here. I studied to be a journalist, and I see what's going on here. Not only do my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, not only do the dirt sheets, not only do they help to dumb you down and bring you down to the lowest common denominator of entertainment that we've expected from professional wrestling. Now we're getting the low-hanging fruit. Now, that's been common in the Vince McMahon era, of course, and other wrestling promotions. WCW gave us that. But there's really something in the mindset of Triple H. And I don't want to throw him under the bus here. I'm not trying to go ahead and criticize him for that. But here's the thing that I have to explain as to what's going on with WWE and where NXT is trying to follow suit. I've come to the realization that Triple H is really trying to just take the NXT model he used in the black and white. I know for some of you, you're going to sound like, oh, yeah, okay, Captain Obvious. I know I've been seeing the NXT-fication of the WWE right now and the main roster. I know it's been there. I wanted to give benefit of the doubt. And for a little over 2 years, I think I've given benefit of the doubt to Triple H that he could take some of the concepts, some of the things he caused excitement and really was able to go ahead and get crowds into a frenzy over what they were doing on NXT. That what he can do would resonate because of how he had the takeovers. the pay-per-views. And what they're really going to do to transition from the studio show, essentially a studio show for the Performance Center or Full Sail, and transitioning over to what takeovers would be in major arenas, which would be the conventional arenas that you see for Monday Night Raw right now. But we're already seeing it at the moment, and this is before, TKO Group Holdings got into play, and, we already know that WrestleMania was bumped to a two-day event already. Of course, there's revenue to be that said. I don't know if we need to go overkill and start having multiple two-day events with all 4 major pay-per-views. I think that's overkill. Even Wrestle Kingdom is just 2 nights. And there's nobody else doing 2 nights of events. I mean, what, the NWA main series of 76, I guess. But no, I think NWA 76 was only 1 day, 1 night. So we know the cash grab is there. That's fine. Look, the corporate run TKO Group Holdings and what they're going to be doing with this product is understandable. They need to recoup from that $9 billion that they have spent on this product. They're going to try to get it back as quick as they can. Contracts are in place. They're not necessarily worrying about trying to sign new contracts and signing to any big money contracts right now for anybody out there, because I don't think that TKO Group Holdings sees anybody in talent that might come across that would be worthy. They have the NIL program to work off of. They're using that. They're utilizing it. The Performance Center is being used, obviously. And, you're getting athletes being brought in to become professional wrestlers. Great. The sports entertainment side has been lacking. But that's everybody. Everybody is not looking for mainstream crossover appeal. For whatever reason, wrestling right now, in the current day and age, it's a commodity because it's a live sport. In the days now where we have streaming that is consuming so much of viewership, where network and cable TV are no longer the priority. And, we have to consider that too, about when the ratings look what they are. We're getting the base points of 600,000 viewers for NXT, 1.5 million viewers, or 1.6 for SmackDown this week, and 1.5 million viewers. I don't even know what Raw got this week, but I know it was a tape show, and I know it was up against, Major League Baseball playoffs, so they were not going to do so well, and that's okay. They get a break on that. But other than that, you have to say to yourself, can they find a way to go and, if they can still build audience? I mean, for whatever reason, there are still shows on network TV that can still pull 8 million viewers. And of course, if it's something live sports, they should be able to do more for that as well. The other thing you have to think about is that if they are doing the 2-hour format, there's a lot of talent everybody's saying right now that there is on a Raw that can be used, but they're going to take a back seat right now because of what's going to happen. We talked about that. Why at 6, you're only getting vignettes from them and not even that much. They have their approach. Monday's show stayed consistent, whether it's live or taped. That's very interesting. So while they were able to go ahead and maintain the audience they have, the base is, again, as 1.5 million viewers during football season. And they're going up also against, on Monday night, they had the Buffalo Bills New York Jets football game, which pretty was close towards the end. And that pulled in 17.2 million viewers through all the networks for ABC and the ESPN networks, the main cast. And then Major League Baseball got 3.8 million. So they were up against heavy competition. They held up. So we know that there is a bottoming out. That there's a plateau that WWE right now is reaching. And there's a loyal 1.5 million viewers to watch live. And maybe add a little bit more for same-day viewers or a couple days. Maybe make that 2 million viewers. We'll be generous in the estimate. But 2 million viewers out of this market, when you have the demographic of 18 to 49 men, let's just say, and they're able to get and pull 3 to 18 to 25 to whatever million viewers you want, and that can be on a weekly basis. Because football obviously draws so much. And it's a camaraderie, it's mainstream appeal. And live sports in general does that. I mean, even with basketball, when it comes up with the NBA next week, they'll also have the benefit of able to go and pull significant ratings. Well, we see WNBA able to go and pull a million viewers on a regular basis anytime Caitlin Clark played, excuse me. And right now they're probably pulling about 1 million viewers for WNBA finals. Live sports, that is the constant. That is the consideration. That's what the category that WWE is being put into right now. With UFC, they do their own thing when it comes to ratings and when it comes to their numbers as well. But for the most part of them, they're not dealing with a TV product. They got their pay-per-views, they got their Friday specials that they do, and they're doing just fine. They got fight nights and they got their main pay-per-views, and they are kicking ass. And they're paying at a premium. With WWE, you have to hope that the advertising is going to go and come in to help offset. You got the broadcast deals, obviously, that go and help out as well, but you need to go ahead and mail they're going to still want to make money on the advertising and build it off of that. At least for now, until Netflix comes in, and who knows if they're going to have ads in there embedded and what they'll be able to go ahead and get. But that's the level of audience that you get. And so for the credit to give to Triple H and what he's done, creating an NXT style booking, which he started probably going back to maybe 2012, 2013, when the Full Sail era began. And I can't remember how much he was really involved in that, from the transition from Florida Championship Wrestling into Full Sail, and if he was put in charge of that. But what I do know is that, talent development, it's no question that the athletes he is bringing in and the people that he can bring on board that are coming into the Performance Center, I have no doubt that they can work well. So some of the NXT stars that they have right now in NXT itself, some of the NXT call-ups that have come up that are not part of the UK brand, that are not international stars, I think they've been working. But the NXT field that he wants to bring to the main roster, it is clashing with the culture of the WWE, what has been. When you look at the stars that we see on a regular basis that are the mainstays on that roster, okay? In the description I write for the show this week, you look at stars like Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles. They exist in a different culture. They're all made with gimmicks, all made with particular movesets. They're built in with not just entrance music. They have catchphrases. They have everything. And they've also gone through multiple different kind of gimmick changes or persona changes. And we've seen them on TV in multiple brands. In the heyday, and a very good heyday as well for all these folks. When it comes to TNA in a very prominent time, AJ Styles was there. For Ring of Honor in their prominent time, before Tony Khan bought it, also a prominent time. Until the time that Joe Koff came in and Sinclair was part of it. And by the way, Joe Koff passing away, who was formerly the CEO of Ring of Honor. It was a shame to go and see him pass at such a young age. But, condolences and best prayers and blessings, for the family members that are losing, that lost him this week. He was an important figure, managing Ring of Honor and a very, promising time. A lot of things going on at Ring of Honor when he was there in the Sinclair era. So there was some things that you could say were significant that made Ring of Honor very valuable, which is the reason why Tony Khan, to his credit, even though he hasn't done a great job of trying to build on that brand, I mean, he's been limited on what he can do. The one thing we can say is that it was wonderful that he decided to go ahead and hold the brand and keep it, keep the legacy alive in some way, shape, or form. I'm at least happy that he did that. But you see a difference in the stars that came in when Vince McMahon was around. So Roman Reigns, John Cena, The Rock, you'll still see them. But there's something to be said about Triple H has a reputation for nurturing young stars at NXT, but we're looking for breakout stars. Now, my fellow podcast wrestling brethren and the fans out there, the fandom, they're not the fans of the Attitude Era that you might remember 20 years ago. Not necessarily. Who they're fans of is from the past 10 years of NXT and what it's brought to us. And I understand that part. Because what we really understand more than anything is how much of a counterculture that NXT was. We've talked about it. The super independent. Triple H wanted to create and take away some of the things he enjoyed from the ECW atmosphere. Obviously, Paul Heyman's been in his ear. So that ECW atmosphere that we had, bringing it into a large arena atmosphere, which is what he's been doing for quite a few things he's done in terms of really the established stars. Let's be honest, okay? To take Jey Uso, build up his persona and the interest that he has. Rhea Ripley, or Cody Rhodes, or Seth Rollins. You know, there's a lot of things now where it's that pomp and circumstance. It's that audience participation. And the crowd doesn't mind paying extra money to be in the crowd with other like-minded fans chanting or singing along or whatever they're going to do. And especially those fans that are international. And that was something that was also created in the NXT arena. Or the Performance Center. The same kind of feeling that you got when you watch the TNA show, you know, in Stage Center 40, what was it, Soundstage 49 and the Impact Zone? Same idea, because honestly, the Impact Zone also had that kind of feeling too, the back and forth. Anytime you had a Ring of Honor play at the Hammerstein Ballroom or the, you know, it's those things. Or the Empire Ballroom, right? Manhattan Center. Or Philadelphia 2300 Arena. To create that atmosphere and try to magnify into the arenas. So he's done that with some of the main roster stars. That's okay. But it is amplifying the talent that you know is definitely talented, that has a track record, that are very recognizable. You need to put them front and center. And there are some that have been around for a long time that they're not getting that so much. The Miz doesn't get that much, you know, when it comes to things. Braun Strowman, not necessarily. They take it a backseat. The New Day, take it a backseat. Now, that's okay if you want to do that. But Triple H has a loyalty to the NXT stars that he brought and nurtured. So Nia Jax being brought in front and getting much more of a prominent role now, understood. And seeing her as a mentor to Tiffany Stratton, understood. With all the stars he wants to bring up that he really has, him and Shawn Michaels have such curried favor for, and they'll loyal to a fault. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Katana Chance, Kaden Carter, Lyra Valkyria. Like there's all these NXT names, that Braun Breaker, all these NXT stars that they've brought up, that they've really, you know, they obviously feel proud and passionate of what they've done with Rhea Ripley. For whatever reason, there are also other stars they don't necessarily do anything with. And I don't want to get into that whole issue where he was asked that Bad Blood Triple H about, you know, there's something peculiar about certain stars, certain minority stars, not getting a chance to be in that main event and that have had main event exposure and they're not there. I don't know if it's necessarily that. And I'm not playing that role here. This is not what this program's about. But I do think that his favoritism is the fact that there are certain stars, if Triple H and Shawn Michaels are directly responsible for the enhancement, development of these stars to the persona they want them to be, then of course they're going to stand behind them. But for those that have come into the space that were not done by them, because I think for Bianca Belair, she was around at NXT for a significant amount of time, but the only difference is that, you know, going into that main roster, they enhanced the character. I think they brought more to that character and put her up to such a spotlight now. And then Jade Cargill was really a star somewhere else. Let's just call it like it is. It really is that part. Jade Cargill was a star in AEW before she became a star here. Has she really done anything significant right now? I think just keeping her in lockstep with Bianca Belair, it's nice, but look at SmackDown. You know, yeah, you gave them a front slot at the beginning of the show on Friday so they could take on Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. That's fine. And I know those two stars, they obviously put a lot of time and effort into it, and they think, well, this is a good thing. Here, you deserve this match. You deserve the spotlight. Go ahead and put yourselves in here. We're doing the crossover NXT main roster deal in the initial start of NXT on CW. Okay, that's fine. But is that the best use of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair? No. Those two could be individual stars. I mean, right now, if we had to have a storyline where they were both at each other and we finally had a heel turn, I would prefer that Jade Cargill would turn, and then Jade Cargill would be upset, and her ego that comes in from another organization would then come in and fester, and that would cause a cancer between her and Bianca, and then let those two have war of words. But honestly, the fact that are not competing for either women's singles title, it sucks. And the thought process that people think that we should have a secondary belt for the women, no, we don't. So let's make an Intercontinental and U.S. title for the women. No secondary belts. No mid-card belts. I don't know if you really have to. I mean, we already know they don't put enough time on some of the women's matches. They could always do more. I mean, one of the things that I kind of miss a little bit here is with some of the women we have right now on that main roster and what they're doing, there's something about the women's revolution that we had and the stars we had on board that were just different, significantly different, and had characters and personalities and all, and changed. But also, it's very hard for some of those women to live up to the level that AJ Lee made. In a sense, the Bella Twins, because of their persona, not necessarily the work in the ring. Let's just be honest there. Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Bayley in that early part of her face career. Like, really? And Becky Lynch, which I'm still surprised. Okay, well, I hope she's having fun at home with her daughter, but it's unfortunate that she's not working anywhere right now. But more importantly, why Becky Lynch is not part of any roster at the moment, and why WWE did not make a pursuit to go ahead and bring her back. I mean, unless they felt like there was nothing left. But right now, I guess they just think that, she's odd one out. But there was so much she's done. And I don't think there was anything wrong with her on the way out. She was not she was not a declining star. She wasn't declining in wrestling and working out there. But right now, you are trying to go ahead and work on storylines that also are stagnant. They are stretched out, thin. We're not doing 3-month programs. We're not doing longer programs. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley has been going on for a while now. There's no point I see where this feud will end between those two. It just feels like it's going to be continuous. Now you had Raquel Rodriguez in the mix as a buffer. They never really took the time to explain and call back to the fact that Raquel and Liv were tag team partners. I guess they kind of talked about it, but really there's not been much of it. Judgment Day's just a bunch of misfits. A faction for the sake of faction. When you have factions in NXT in the black and gold days, you had factions that did have some kind of purpose. I mean, even right now, some of the factions that we see in NXT that came from the Rainbow brand and what they were doing with them, the Angelo family looks flat. Look out at the Phantasm when they moved up, nothing. LWO, And then I look at Chase University, the No Quarter Catch crew, and I'm just trying to figure out, there's not a lot of time or effort really being put into the factions. So when you still feel like you need to group people together, and I'm guessing they're grouping people together because they're all friends, they're all kind of like, they want to work with each other on something. There's a lot more creative input allowed by the wrestlers. They're making it where it's stars that should be taking direction from creative. Like, of course, have the input. But what's happening is Triple H, in the NXT system he created autonomy for these stars. Autonomy, and almost feels like creative control. Like, I mean, they just got to go out and do the matches. But they're kind of in control of what their own gimmicks are, what they're going to say. They're not going out there with any talking points. Pretty obvious. We're hearing the promos out there. They're just organic, but like there's no direction. There's nothing motivating. There's no real heat behind them. You could tell that part. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, at, towards the second part of their feud over 10 months was flat. Like, what else are you going to do? What are you going to go ahead and talk about? The Bloodline storyline, trying to restore that and bring that back up again. It's flat. It's sputtering out of the gate once again. Just because you got Roman Reigns back on screen with Jimmy Uso doesn't mean it's made it better. It's obvious because, look, the Bloodline, 1.6 million viewers. Yeah, it's up against competition with sports. But the Bloodline used to go ahead and spike a rating. And I would think that maybe it's not going to get what Fox got, but at least you would think the Bloodline getting back together would spike a rating. Roman Reigns alone would spike a rating. But that Bloodline, you can obviously see when you had Paul Heyman, you had the Usos together, you did have the backstage thing where Jimmy tried to talk to Jay. Yeah, I understand. They don't want to do anything with that. Do you think it's a tease down the line that Jay will eventually then team up at some point, and that's what will happen by Survivor Series or something else? I don't know. But the one thing that I look at right now is that there are stars that were made from other organizations. And there is something to be said about where Vince McMahon wanted to make sure that stars that came into the fold worked WWE style. And there are some others that are allowed to kind of like play their part, but I think they also have to water down what they can do. So the new shiny toys that Triple H has right now in NXT is Julia, Stephanie Vaquer. They're putting a lot of emphasis on them right now to start off the CW era of NXT. Fine. They haven't really taken enough time. Like, we know where they come from. Julia and Stephanie Vaquer, which is what all we're getting. And they're inheriting the nicknames that were given before they came. Pretty much it. They're just wrestlers. It's like UFC. Okay, but UFC, trying to like just have stars like UFC stars, which is what WWE is doing right now. And for TKO Group Holdings, they think that's all they have to go and do. Maybe the corporate brass is telling them, hey, we don't want the gimmicks. We don't want the cartoon, over-the-top, big-time circus deal. We don't want the ringmaster kind of stuff. We don't want these different acts. We want these stars to be athletes, and that's it. Maybe that's directed from on high. From Endeavor, the parent company owns TKO Group Holdings. Maybe that's a directive. Maybe that's what Triple H and Nick Khan sold on the idea. But I think everybody consensus of those that listen to this program realize that aspect of WWE that was sports entertainment, even though we looked and frowned upon the idea of sports entertainment, I think we're missing it. There's a withdrawal from it. There's a withdrawal. What I will give credit for Triple H is that he does have some amazing young talent that really need gimmicks, that really need some fleshed out storylines, and really need some good feuds to build them up. They're not doing any favors right now. Braun Breaker working with the likes of Sami Zayn. Okay, Seth Rollins working with Bronson Reed. I would prefer Braun Breaker to work with Seth Rollins. But Bronson Reed, because he was part of that NXT fold, the loyalty is there. And for whatever reason, Triple H also has a thing with certain stars that he wants to create an international brand. But there's nothing more, that really identifies where these people come from. Not really. Some Australian stars, some UK stars, people that he brought into NXT that worked great, and they just, they did what they did. I think with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, they create their own persona. They create their own look. Rhea Ripley's gone through quite a bit of change. I think the Monday Night Mommy thing and that whole deal with Dominic Mysterio, that might have been organic where Dominic might have worked with her and thought the Latino Heat idea would work. Sure. But last year compared to this year, the Monday Night Mommy and the Judgment Day that we had before, this new Judgment Day we have right now that has still decided to stay Judgment Day pales in comparison. even after Edge, if you're just talking about Finn and Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and Dominic, that was a good foursome. JD McDonough, Carlito, Raquel Rodriguez, no. These three do not fix. They do not fit in the mix. But it's all friendships. Liv's probably saying, hey, let's work Raquel in here. She's back. She's not hurting anymore. She can work with us. Finn, let's get JD McDonough in here. He's my boy. Let's get him in here. Carlito, I don't know what his relationship with whoever brings him into the mix. I don't know. But let's just go along to get along, right? Let's just make the matches and just, whatever. Everybody coexists. But there are sacrifices being done right now. No spectacles, right? If we're getting anything, it's what the NXT takeovers used to be. We'd have a gimmick match and it would be like some outrageous move or bump or whatever that would be in the matches. That's it. So Triple H focuses on work rate and the storylines they give. They don't want larger than life characters. I guess there's something about like in the pecking order, they don't want anybody to get more popular than the others. Like there's something wrong about having a big main event star. And I'm afraid to say that after Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, there will be nobody else that can be that main event. Randy Orton has been there. Seth Rollins has been there. The Miz has been up there. But I think we're at the point right now, in this NXT-fication of WWE right now, they're not going to let that happen. When you look at the Women's Revolution and who were the big main stars before, I don't know if Bayley was ever up there. Sasha Banks was. Becky Lynch was. AJ Lee was. Right now, in the current set, I think you can definitely say that Rhea Ripley's already there. Bianca Belair's there. Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton, absolutely. They're on the road to it. And with how popular they are right now, they should be higher up. Now, Tiffany Stratton does have the Money in the Bank briefcase. Okay. Jade Cargill is a tag team champion. Co-tag team champion. Okay. But it's not enough. Real pushes, winning streaks, and a real build-up for stars to become larger than life. There's a formula to it. Triple H doesn't want to do that formula. Parity booking and keep everyone at a certain level. No one gets a little above a certain ceiling. So nobody ruffles feathers. There's no favoritism among others. But there has to be. And in any sport, you're always going to find stars who are going to go and rise to the top. And it's not imperative for WWE to go ahead and keep those people down. And also the thought about like what certain stars they think should go ahead and get that high up level and think they're considered main event. Jey Uso should be higher up. I mean, I don't worry about this thing right now with the IC title. That's nice. He should have won that about a year ago or 2 years ago. But now we're at the point where you have stars that are holding belts and they're just more props than anything else. It's not really, we don't feel like there's an enhancement with certain stars being the title holders. I honestly believe that certain belts right now, they don't enhance a champion. They don't make anything more. They just guarantee you're going to have a match on a pay-per-view or on a TV show, and that's it. But there's not much else. And what about the whole thing with Lee Fitting? The Kevin Dunn change to Lee Fitting and thinking, okay, this guy from ESPN, who's done great work in terms of, production style. Yeah, production style is good. I'm not complaining about that part. I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily care about the whirling around the ring and watching for like 3 minutes. I don't care about that. Like one pan shot like that. No, I don't care about that. I'm not necessarily concerned about the overhead shots, that's okay. But I think there's something about that. Sure, you could go make WWE look more like a sporting event, give it like a UFC feel. The entrances have a certain feel to it now. That's fine. But you're trying to go and create yourself like a mainstream sport, which goes against what the brand has been for 50 years, which was an entertainment. It's just a sport for a specific type of wrestling fan. And remember, all you're getting to amplify the product are wrestling fans that their fandom is so consumed on social media, they can watch a Twitch stream and follow somebody that's a content creator to talk about it, or listen to a podcast or somebody that's doing it, or read a dirt sheer blog that's talking about it, right? Like, you can go through that, but that's just keeping yourself in an echo chamber, in a bubble. But there's much more we could be doing. Something missing there. Triple H, I understand that you wanted to keep the NXT model as it is because you think it works. Yeah, for NXT. Which, by the way, in the very heyday of when the show was doing well, it was on WWE Network under subscription. Okay, it didn't matter. You had good numbers coming out of WWE Network, and you're also getting people that are going to pay $10 for it at that time. Well before everybody else was getting into streaming. You're getting early streaming game, and WWE Network is kicking ass. And NXT was one of the big draws for people to go and spend that subscription money 10 years ago. 10 years ago now. Remember, it was February 2014 when that came up. And we were all like, and I mean, remember, I bought the network from day one. And one of the reasons I watched it for sure was NXT. Yeah, for the other stuff, the pay-per-views, and some of the other things with the documentaries and stuff like that, sure. But more than anything, I know that NXT was a draw for me. When I moved to USA, when it stayed an hour. But as I always said, it was good. NXT was good because you did have it at such a compact point of 1 hour. And there were certain matches that were going to get some time. And when they took the time to go and build entertaining stars, look, the fact that you don't want to take the risk of crashing and burning certain stars and putting them with a gimmick or a storyline or some kind of story to tell and see if they're going to be able to sink or swim. Okay, you're not good at that. Okay, that's all right if you're not good at that. But that's where you have creative team to come in. You have the stars that are with you that could create ideas. We don't need the wrestlers to be looking and making ideas of what to say or to build the storyline. That shouldn't necessarily be for them. You want to give them some autonomy, give them some autonomy on the character they're trying to portray. Give them some guidance on what kind of character they should be, and then let them grow from that. I think it works much better. But, if you don't want to do what Vince was doing, okay. And because maybe you're not capable of doing what Vince did, that's all right too. But we know that there are other companies that were able to go and create characters and do something like that. I mean, WCW did it. TNA's done it. AEW to a point, they've done a couple, but when I think about what young stars, when I'm trying to think of young stars that are just really starting to build themselves up and starting to make something of themselves, I think of two names right now that really stand out to me: MJF and Joe Henry. Joe Henry, we don't talk about much, but you know what? We should. He's getting Bound for Glory. He's in the main event. He's taking on Nick Nemeth for the World Heavyweight title. And he'll probably win it this weekend. I'm going to predict that Joe Henry will be World Heavyweight Champion come Bound for Glory. He'll win it that night. But that guy, he's taken a long time to build that character, coming off of Grado and Winter. Remember all that? Let me tell you, the Joe Henry character being such an annoying character that was just kind of like whatever. But this whole singing thing, I believe in Joe Henry, having that build into a movement. One of the reasons that NXT decided to go and work with TNA, that relationship is kind of still there now. But did you notice that for the first couple of weeks that NXT was doing the arena shows and they were on CW, no TNA exchange. None of that was a part. First 3 weeks, remember that? Now we're getting them. Now we're starting to see a little bit of that crossover once again, because now we're starting to see like Rosemary and Wendy Chu are going to take on each other at Bound for Glory. So like they're kind of following all of that. Joe Henry being a part of what was going on with NXT at the end of the USA era, in their era, right? But Joe Henry, a fully fleshed character, the look, what he says, his persona, his entertainment, his moveset, everything. Very fleshed out character. And you wonder why that went so well to bring him over. And remember, it didn't even matter if he was doing a match, just him doing a promo or doing a little concert. I mean, the guy was drawing interest. That's a character. MJF, another great example. That's a guy that, really takes time to enhance his character. He has autonomy on his character. Now, I'm going to go ahead and transition over to TNA or to the AEW real quick, because we need to talk about what's going on because Wrestle Dream did happen. And coming out of that, there were a number of things that they decided to go and do. So Bryan Danielson has been retired. Now the Moxley Mutiny, they now have claimed the World Heavyweight title. They're expanding their attack. They went after Conglomeration tonight. The Elite are standing back. They're not doing anything about it, but they're going to have to respond at some point. Top Flight, Dark Order also being part of the collateral damage. And still don't know what is drawing them here, but, the Black Bull Combat Club that was, now they're this new ragtag group, the Moxley Mutiny, I call them, that they're just running roughshod. And one that go after AEW stars. So there's that, but we're going to find more. We need to get more of the storyline with that faction and what their real modus operandi is. And what really these former stars, for the most part, that are WWE stars, what is it they're doing now that brought them to this point of starting to go ahead and fight back? Because we really don't know the whole story. But we know there were certain people that wanted to go ahead and take out. Jon Moxley wanted to accomplish several things, getting the title shot away from Darby Allin, winning the world title over Bryan Danielson, done. Now, MJF, let me bring up. And I've heard people talk about, why is Adam Cole now confronting MJF again after what they did? Yes, Adam Cole did come out of an ankle injury, and he comes back and was agitated with MJF when he came back after World's End and getting beat down by Undisputed Kingdom and then attacking them, right? And then MJF would then turn heel on Daniel Garcia, going back to where he was. This is where I think things go on. So for a number of reasons, the Undisputed Kingdom MJF storyline where MJF came back, well, number one, when you have MJF turning face like that, I mean, people did enjoy it. But I do honestly think MJF works best as a heel. I mean, he's capable of being a face. Totally. And he was with Adam Cole. We don't need to be a standalone babyface. And I agree with that part. Not right now, anyway. Maybe down the line. But I think with MJF, it's also like where Ric Flair would always go ahead and turn heel or face. But the face turns were never that long. And it was also when he was kind of associated with Four Horsemen and things like that. But it really wasn't more than that. More than not, we'd like to see more Ric Flair as a heel. Maybe not towards the end of his career, but in the mid part of his career, 80s, early 90s, into the Nitro era, yeah, we wanted to see him do that. But now, MJF, if you want to have this storyline with Adam Cole, I think about it like this. Now, yes, you want to go ahead and criticize Tony Khan on restarting this feud. Gotcha. But I think there was something about that you really couldn't make this particular feud and the program you should have had with Adam Cole and MJF happen if MJF doesn't go back to being a prick. I think we need to have it where Adam Cole needed to go back and be turning face again. But under the Undisputed Kingdom thing right now, doesn't necessarily work. And we already know that Adam Cole made a point in storyline that the fight that he has right now with MJF, he doesn't want Undisputed Kingdom involved, because those guys are definitely heels that are kind of doing their own thing. And because they've been kind of like on their own without Adam Cole's back here. He's trying to go lone wolf after MJF because it's a personal deal between them. So Adam, we had to wait for him to come back from injury. He heals up. MJF goes back to being a heel. To me, Tony Khan, by the time that they decided to not go ahead and pursue the storyline because of injury and all, that it was a correction. Because I think they made a mistake because the MJF screw job, they were going to take the belt off of him. And MJF getting screwed by Undisputed Kingdom, fine. But what needed to happen was when he comes back, it's unfortunate that he was going to come back as a face because of how he got beaten up and all, and really having that whole face time, that the whole time being a baby face with Adam Cole, and then the whole screw job. And of course, you'd be sympathetic towards MJF. But then MJF has to have time to come back. He's working as a face once again, has the Daniel Garcia storyline as a buffer, turns on Daniel Garcia. And now that he's back, he also is away because of movies, Happy Gilmore 2 in particular. And then he comes back as a heel now, after already doing what he did several times, beating down Daniel Garcia. I still think Daniel Garcia somewhere down the line is going to go and turn or become a version of MJF. I still feel like that's going to happen. But we never got a full closure to the Adam Cole MJF storyline. Just because MJF was able to get an attack in doesn't mean any much. It was not satisfying to me anyway, enjoying the product. So this is a mistake in the booking that they did, where after the screw job by Undisputed Kingdom, MJF, we needed him to go and turn heel eventually. Because if you're going to have MJF Adam Cole, MJF needs to be the heel at Adam Cole. Because honestly, his best feuds have been as a heel. All the feuds he's had are when he is a prick scumbag heel right now like he is. In his whole run in AEW, that's what it's been. So for people to go in and make the whole story of there's no storyline behind it. Yeah, it's correction. This is a correction right now. It's not great, but I prefer this feud to be like this. I don't even consider after the screw job, right at that point is where you kind of splice and then you edit in the return of Adam Cole here after what he's doing to Daniel Garcia. That's what I think this is. That's where I would take that storyline and splice it. But in real time, it sucks because we're all kind of like stuck in, we're separated out of that. So those are storylines that they presented at WrestleDream, made it important, but they have multiple storylines to work off of, and they did showcase them. Swerve Strickland still being recruited by MVP, and Shelton Benjamin right now. I mean, for everybody that always said, with his run in WWE, that Shelton Benjamin never always got the chance to really get that proper posture, like the real main event kind of feel to him. Never at any point. I mean, obviously his work with Charlie Haas, World's Greatest Tag Team, fine. But I never felt like Shelton Benjamin really got his flowers. I mean, of course we enjoy his work in the ring, but to be at a certain level, because he had a certain gimmick. Because, with Vince, it was always like, here's your mama, this and that. It was always something else that Shelton Benjamin had to be part of. Also being the back end of the tag team with Cedric Alexander and Hurt Business didn't help him either. It was just in the right place, but never the focus. And right now, until MVP gets one of his recruits, whether it's Acclaimed or Private Party or Mercedes Moné or Swerve Strickland, he's obviously trying to work his way to get somebody there. And Swerve Strickland is in his radar. So that's the storyline we got right now. 2 weeks from now, Swerve Strickland, Shelton Benjamin take on each other. Great match. That'll be fun. And then the other storyline that's very important right now is Don Callis' family and their campaign of attacking on Will Ospreay. And Ricochet being brought into the fold because of the triple threat match they had at WrestleDream, and now Ricochet is going to start focusing on Takeshita because he wasn't pinned. And also the screw job that Takeshita put into the mix and what was going on with Don Callis' family, Ricochet is still going to be an important part of this. So Ricochet going after the international title and Ospreay going after the Don Callis family. And with the Don Callis family also, we were kind of complaining about where's Brian Cage coming to the mix and all. And it's like, I get it. There's some things that have not necessarily been brought up in terms of like people and the factions that you're joining and who they're associated with. We know that like Lance Archer, I think, was just brought into the mix as of late. And Brian Cage also just being brought as of late. But I will admit as well, I have not watched Collision in a couple of weeks because football is consuming. I just haven't had time to go and watch Collision. I wish it was on a different night. So those are major storylines they have right now in AEW. And that's quite a bit they're going to have right there on Dynamite. That's good. Mercedes Moné still champion and having her deal, beating Queen Amanada tonight. And then you have Mariah May. Yeah, they need to go and find some new people for her to work with. Because right now, Mariah May stand alone without the Toni Storm angle. Yeah, it sucks. She needs somebody else new to go up against. And there's not anybody in particular they have that is going to go up. Personally, I guess Thunder Rosa, I guess she's hurt. I'm not sure what happened to her. Deonna Purrazzo's around. Why? What is she doing right now? Why is she in the part here going up against Mariah May? Like, make her a face here. Let's put her into the mix. And you have a bit where Saraya's been a part of this here in the same way. Like, we need something for some of these women to do. It's like, come on, let's go. You got stars in there. Got to get them working. And Mariah May will only be as good as the opponent she's getting to take on. You need to continue to enhance her with that title. She's won it, but she needs to have contenders. And honestly, I would prefer to have a contender that she's constantly working with. With Mercedes Moné, I would like to still think it's going to be Britt Baker down the line. That will come back, and I know she's sick right now, but hopefully she'll come on back, and we'll still see her in the mix trying to go after that title. I want to still see that. I mean, just to have a one-off with Mariah May beating Willow Nightingale over the weekend, it's not enough. We got to have something more. You got Chris Statlander sitting back there. Let's just do something right now. Let's get some feuds going on. So the women really need the feuds right now. They're just kind of like in their own device right now. And we need something else to build up. Because somebody needs to come in and pick up off of that Toni Storm angle that was fantastic. And of course, now she's working overseas. And she's doing great. By the way, congratulations to her for hitting that PWI 500. That's awesome. On the women's side. But like, we need something more. Okay, let's close things out right now and talk about TNA Bound for Glory. I'm going to have to figure out how they're going to work this out because I'm going to be at a football game while this is going on. But if anything, if I'm not able to get the Bound for Glory post-show done, I'm going to try to go ahead and make sure to catch it on Saturday night. And if I get it done, it'll be late. It'll be very late Saturday night, but I'm going to try my best to go and be able to catch the show on the road. It's by phone. I will do my best, but I want to watch it. And at the moment, you have for the titles, you have Nick Nemeth and Joe Henry, TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and the Hollywood Hunk, Nick Nemeth right now. He has the prestigious one, Joe Henry, and we know that Joe Henry finished up his feud with Josh Alexander at Victory Road, and also beat Frankie Kazarian on the way up to taking on this match. So Joe Henry getting this chance here, we all talk about the fact that it was going back to Rebellion. I want to say that we were looking at Joe Henry possibly. It was the 5-way match we had. I think that was not Summerversary, that was Rebellion. And so everybody for the last 6 months, they're all kind of hankering, thinking that we're going to see Joe Henry finally get a chance to win. Obviously, the NXT crowd wanted to have it. I don't think so. It wasn't time for that yet. So Tommy Dreamer decided not to do that. Let's wait. Make it for Bound for Glory. Crowning achievement for Joe Henry. Make him the top star right there. Have him win the belt that night. And I think that's the right move. Make it win at Bound for Glory. Then you got Monsters Ball and the Escape of the Mayhem with Matt Cardona, and still trying to work in the things about TNA and Stephanie DeLander and the PCO. That whole mix has been going on with those three as what's been going on. PCO's been trying to pursue and go after and avenge on Matt Cardona, but Cardona's been chicken shit. He's been getting away. And he's had DeLander as a shield to stop from being messed up, but now Monsters Ball match, we haven't had one of those in a while. So if you don't have Abyss, you got PCO to go and work Monsters Ball. There you go. I'll take PCO on the win over Matt Cardona. But again, the Deathmatch King, that should be fun. That should be a pretty good match just on that alone. Then you have things set up where Mike Santana, they're continuing to kind of build him from that mid-card and try to make him important. It's been a long time to try to make him more into that main event star. But they've been working definitely on trying to give him more one-on-one matchups. Of course, that's what TNA is all built upon, especially when you had Scott D'Amore running the show. So now Moose, former champion, is in the way, and the system has also gotten in the way of Mike Santana making his way up. But that's because Mike Santana, when he came in, went after the system. And now Santana gets a one-on-one chance against Moose. Then you got Tag Team Turmoil and Full Metal Mayhem with the system and the Hardys taking on each other. And also ABC will be a standout match for sure. Who knows? They might just start the night off with this match. I mean, in the booking that we've always seen where you always think the high flyers get that first match. Yeah, I could see Tag Team Turmoil starting off the night for Bound for Glory. I could totally see that happen. So the World Tag Team titles on the line. By the way, the fact that the Motor City Machine Guns, was it a year ago that, or 2 years ago that Alex Shelley was, last year, right? Alex Shelley was World Heavyweight Champion and Chris Sabin was X Division Champion. And now Motor City Machine Guns, they're going to finally get that last payoff and going to the sunset working for NXT. Oh, no, sorry, work for the main roster, right? They'll bring them in? Great. I think just to get that one more spot, like there's a spot that, some people always thought that WWE should have been in their crosshairs and now they're going to get their chance. Well, good for the fans. The WWE bubble, you get to go enjoy Motor City Machine Guns and they can go out there. That's great. But they are, out there and they've had their career. We've watched them for 15 years. So, I mean, for me, watching them in TNA, watching them in Ring of Honor, I'm not necessarily going to get too much out of them and what they're going to be doing. I mean, they get good matches. They'll be consistent. I think them kind of replacing what the Hardys were as helping stars to develop against. Like for Motor City Machine Guns, it's important for them to go and work with the likes of, say, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Do I really care about them taking on DIY? No. But I think there's something there where at least you'll have them working with some other stars. That won't be a bad thing. Now, I will take Mike Santana to beat Moose in the one-on-one. I will take... Man, it's going to be tough. But I'm going to say ABC will win in Full Metal Mayhem. And for some reason, I think that the system and the Hardys will kind of cancel each other out. But that should be a fun match nevertheless. We have a Knockouts Collision score to settle. And that's Jordynne Grace defending against Masha Slamovich. So we know 2 years ago, Jordynne Grace beat Masha Slamovich. No title match. But it was to stop Slamovich's undefeated streak. But Slamovich, she's had her work where she was working with Killer Kelly and, becoming Knockouts Tag Team Champions and working on that. But now Masha's been brought in here and she's going to the Knockouts World title. Jordynne Grace has been champion for a while here and holding on to it, which is great. And have a reason for this match to come into place. That's fine. That works well. And for TNA, it's the booking they have and what they're going to be doing for the matches looks pretty good. Wayne State University Fieldhouse in Detroit. And so far on the card, we know that Vikingo will also be working will be at the show. I don't know if he'll be wrestling or not, but again, 4 matches have been announced. We don't know what else is going to be going on outside of that. But again, or 5 matches, excuse me. Still great. There will be more, but again, 5 matches they have definitely announced, and Vikingo will be coming in. That's their plan. That works for me. We don't know what they're going to be doing after that. But either which, I mean, if they're also going to go and just announce 5 matches, what they're going to be doing after that, that'll be interesting what they're going to do. And I'll admit, one thing that's been very rough for me is that TNA, it sucks that I try to go and try to watch their shows. I haven't caught them in a while. Like after Slammiversary, I really kind of lost track of trying to catch that show because honestly, I just never think about going to Access TV and going to that. And Thursday nights is football. Once football's here, it's like I'm watching the Amazon game. It's just where I'm at. My focus is there. And also with basketball coming in, it also makes it a little bit more difficult. But anyway, I will plan to do a post show for Bound for Glory coming up this weekend. So make sure you're going to look out for that. And also, we're going to look at next week and see what happens when it comes to the build-up for Crown Jewel. We got it in 3 weeks. And then Full Gear's coming up. And it's 5 weeks for AEW. We'll see how they're all going to be planning out for that. But things are getting built up. We'll look. So come back next week for another Wrestlers Podcast. Or actually, come up, enjoy Bound for Glory. That's right. And then come back this Saturday night for another Wrestlers Podcast because wrestling needs us.